Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of that show that will not be named. Still drinking the coffee. Feel my heart. I don't know if this is decaf or not. I hope it doesn't smell or taste like decaf. Damn my brother and his excellent coffee making skills. Anyways, hello everybody and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about something a little different. Today, I wanted to talk about the only creepy, ghostly-esque experience ever that I've ever had in my life. Lots of creepy things have happened to me over the course of my life, but I've never actually experienced anything ghost-like or creepy or anything like that. I don't believe in ghosts. I believe that, well, I'll get into what I believe in ghost-wise some other day, but on the whole, I don't believe in anyone's traditional idea of a ghost. I don't believe in the afterlife. I don't believe in heaven and hell. I don't believe in deities, angels, demons, evil forces, goblins. Okay, the physical aspects I might believe in because they're physical. So you have like at least an image of what they look like. I somewhat believe in aliens, alternate plane existence beings, whatever. Basically, on a less complicated scale, I don't believe in the supernatural. I don't believe in magic, yada yada yada. However, there was one time when I was little that, and this is a completely true story, I don't mean to be clickbaity or anything like that. I can tell you from the bat, I don't believe in any of this shit. However, I want to show you something that caused me to change my mind. If you just sit right here, I'll be right back. There we go. When I was very little, the first video game system I had ever gotten was the GameCube. And I love the GameCube. One of the first games I ever played, ever, was Mario Party 4 for the GameCube. And every chance I got to get a new game for that system, I did. I was very obsessed with Mario back then. Didn't really get into Sonic until I moved to Florida in 2004. About the summer to the early 2004. And shortly after getting the GameCube, there was a movie that came out in theaters. It was called The Haunted Mansion, starring Eddie Murphy. It's about Eddie Murphy. He goes to the Haunted Mansion, deals with ghosts. He does this shtick of running around being scared, and surprisingly enough, I thought it was a pretty alright movie. It's a pretty funny movie. It's about overcoming your fears, yada yada. But before the movie was released, they came out with this, the Haunted Mansion video game. As you can see, as much as I like to believe this is my original copy, I can't be 100% sure. Seeing the free movie pass inside, I definitely don't have that anymore. We didn't really go and see this when it came out. I didn't see this movie until we moved to Florida a few years later. But when I lived in Brooklyn and Garrettson Beach, this was one of the games I had gotten, and I don't know how we got it. It might have been picked up by my mother or something, because I remember this was a bit of a puzzle game, and I don't like puzzle games very much. This game, however, I love. This is a very good, very original game. It had nothing to do with the Eddie Murphy movie, the same name, other than they were both called The Haunted Mansion, and took place in this mansion. The game was about this guy, Ezekiel Holloway, who applies for a position as an assistant caretaker in this mansion near Louisiana. And when he gets there, it turns out the whole place is overrun with ghosts. And this warlock, or sorcerer, or whatever the hell, named Atticus Thorne, he's the leader of this organization called the Order of Shadows. Apparently none of them are around anymore except for him. And he traps all the souls in this mansion, like 999 happy haunts, and turns them into evil spirits. And plans to spread death throughout the world, unless you could stop him. Phenomenal game. Amazing game. I would sneak I would sneak down from my room at night past bedtime to go into the living room downstairs. I would go past my parents' bedroom, go downstairs, and plug this in and start playing. Now, here's where the creepy shit comes in. This only happened to me once, and it never happened again. When I put this game in, it started up regularly, I guess you could say. We had 2 speakers that were on like these pillars on the side of our, like, a big television. I forget if it was probably a flat screen, but it was one of those weird flat screens where it was like the flat screen and then the back was like giant. And it was like similar to having just a giant dresser in front of you with a screen on it. That's what our TV looked like. This is back in like 2003, 2004-ish. Might have been 2002 too. I'm not sure. One of those 2000 years. But one night I was downstairs, I was playing the game, and I flipped it on. All the power was on, and the sound was coming out of the speakers. So when I put it on, it was playing the whole intro scene with, like, it's going throughout the mansion, it's looking at the graves, a hand pops up out of the grave. It flashes by that, you go through the door, ghosts come through and they chase you back to the gates, and then the gates close, and it's a whole big thing. But as soon as the game began, like, I pressed continue. Because I had, like, my file, and then there's, like, empty files. I pressed continue on my file, and for whatever reason, the game didn't continue where I left off. The game started to... It like played all the way from the beginning. Like, Ezekiel Holloway was from blah 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 blah, and he wanted to be a writer, and so, and it was replaying the whole intro. The only difference was there was no voiceover. There was him walking, and then there was, like, all the scenery and everything, but the voiceover wasn't there. And at first I'm like, that's fucking creepy. Now, mind you, this is before the age of creepypastas and before all this shit. So I was blown away by this. I'm thinking, ooh, hacked game. I'm thinking something's up with the game. Maybe it's not, the disc isn't reading it right. So I'm going on and I'm playing, and well, I wasn't playing, but I kept watching, and it was the entire intro to this, but there was no narrator. And eventually I got up to the mansion, and the ghost came through the door, and the only thing that was playing was the sound effects. And it got up to the part where, in the beginning of the game, after the whole intro, and Zeke gets scared, and then he ends up in Madame Leota's basement thing, you talk to Madame Leota, she explains to you what's up, you put her in your satchel, and then you go on to explore the mansion. No dialogue through any of that. It was all silent. The only thing that played was like the creepy music and the sound effects and the footsteps and everything, but nobody talked. Everyone's mouths was moving. Nobody was talking. And I got up to the part where Madame Leota, it was Madame Leota saying something. But when it got up to that point, the scene kept looping again. And again, like, she would say something, and then it would stop, and then it would jump back, and she would say something, and it would stop, and it would jump back. And it wasn't so much I couldn't hear the voices, it was the animation. It was the animation of her constantly talking, and the camera was just on her. And at that point, I was getting a little unnerved, because I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. It's just like, first we have no talking whatsoever, just went through the whole intro, no talking, and now it's just repeating, like, her just... And this is what followed, this was the fucking unnerving part. I figured something was up with it, so I was going to press the power button. So I pressed the power button off. I turned off I just immediately turned off my GameCube with the white power button, and I pressed it to turn it back on. When I pressed it to turn it back on, the game immediately came up. The GameCube game, the Haunted Mansion, immediately loaded up, and it showed the part where, like, it's coming out of the face of the skull, and then it shows you the mansion, and then the lightning flickers. It was at the scene where it was coming out of the skull, and my whole television just went down. I'm like, okay. And then, after my television went down, sounds started coming out of the speakers, like just sounds. And it was just screaming and chains. It was like chains rattling and screaming. Just, And I'm like, I fucking jumped back. And I thought I must have pressed something or whatever. We didn't have, as far as I know, the TV hooked up to anything. It was just the television hooked up to the video game system. And I know for a fact that video game system, that GameCube, did not have those noises in the game. These chains sound effect. I played this entire game like 100 times. The chain sound effects and the screaming sound effects were not in this game. So the system was on with this game inside, and my speakers were just spewing like these horrible noises, and they were scaring the shit out of me. I hadn't heard this shit before. It's just intense screaming, chains, and it's just like deep moaning. And I fucking booked it. I immediately pressed off on the machine again. I clicked off on my GameCube. Pressed it. I fucking darted upstairs so fucking quick. I went right into bed. I pulled the covers over my head, and I was done. I didn't play this again for like 3 years because, like I said, I don't even know if this is the copy, but I'm 90% sure if it was a technology malfunction or something to that effect. I've shared this story on forums in the past. Nobody's ever replied to it because you know how most people come up with like creepypasta bullshit. It's like fake or people just trying to get attention. I could say with full sincerity that this shit actually happened and scared the living fuck out of me. Since then I have played this game once, but it didn't do anything like that. I have a new GameCube now, the one that I had years ago. I have no clue what happened to it, but this is I believe this is still the same. I believe it's still the same game. I still have the booklet from this. It doesn't have the ticket in it, however. But that was like the only creepy, gamey type thing to ever happen to me ever. I guess it was the only thing I ever found strange or weird. Because, like I said, I don't believe in ghosts, so a lot of this creepy shit never happens. But I'll never forget that. The game just turned on, and hey, if any of you ever jump around and if anyone ever analyzes the files in this game, and you find like noises or sound effects that weren't used in the actual game, by all means tell me, because the noises that I heard coming out of my speakers, were way too fucking... I'm not even gonna say that they were realistic. They were hyperly realistic or any of that bullshit. They just seemed too, like, deathly horrible. Like, really just gruesome to be in a game like that. They sounded like something out of fucking, like, Resident Evil, rather than something out of, like, a Disney horror game. Extremely unfucking settling. But that's about the only creepy gaming-esque thing that's ever happened to me, and I've been meaning to share the story for a while, but the thing is, every time I put it on something, it never gets out there, nobody ever talks about it, and yeah. So tell me what you guys think in the comments section below. I really want to know if anyone else has ever experienced something like this. Like, you just turn off your GameCube, turn it back on. Maybe it's not just this game, maybe it's the GameCube. And then you turn the GameCube back on and suddenly, you know, your speakers just start spewing like this horrible shit. This horrible, like, haunting sounds and crap. Yeah, but that's going to do it for this episode. Don't let this story turn you away from this fantastic game. Wonderful game. This is a fucking gem. I hope either they make a sequel to this, or I would love them to remaster this. that would be amazing. That would be excellent. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video, and hope you all enjoyed this little piece of my kind of fucky childhood. So yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Thank you for joining me.